Hi, everyone. I'm Josh.
And I'm Jim, and this is the Dapper Meeple.
This show is about our love of gaming, the games we play, and the gaming community around this passion.
So grab some snacks, pull up a chair, and join us at the table with your monocle and bowler hat. Hey, kids, remember, this is an adult podcast and may contain adult language.
Also, the Dapper Meeple outfit, not required.
Do you have a lot of friends that like to show up on game night? If you are that kind of weirdo, we've got a list of games for you that can accommodate the whole gang.
And speaking of games, GAMA is getting bigger, Kickstarter has a union strike happening, and Essen is just on the horizon.
We'll finish up with our newest segment. It all starts with a story. Our first dedicated TTRPG segment, and we're going to kick it off with a look at Daggerheart.
All that and more on this episode of the Dapper Meeple.
So if you were a garbage man over off a Tidewater Drive this week and found out what that license plate in that car in front of you meant, welcome to the show.
This is how we grow our audience, one member at a time.
Which is not great because we only got 63 episodes. You know what I'm saying? So it's fine. It's fine. Hey, no fancy little quips or anything. We're going to jump right in to this episode because I know you've been hungry for it.
So first things first, a lot of stuff has happened since we've been out and about, running around doing our real jobs. Wanted to kick off some new stuff coming out of GAMA recently. So if you don't know, GAMA is one of the largest kind of tabletop organizations where if you are anybody in the industry, you're probably a member of GAMA. They cater to board game stores, developers, manufacturers, like the whole gambit. You want to be a part of it because they do a lot of programs and things to help you network with other people in the industry. There are the big events every year, including Origins, which you just went to this past year, and the actual GAMA event, which happens earlier in the year. So they have come out saying that they are looking to become the hub of worldwide board gaming in the next 10 years.
Yeah, I did Origins this year. I feel like there was mixed reviews just from the people that were there, right? Like in years past, they said it was bigger. We're definitely not talking the size of Gen Con or anything, which kind of surprised me because GAMA being what it is.
Yeah, so the stats that GAMA put out about Origins this year was that there were 19,100 people attending, which is up 8% over last year, so 2024, closing in on their record number of 20,600 people recorded in 2019.
Okay. And then as we've talked about, that dip right about the end of 2019 probably makes up for a lot of that.
Yeah, because you think most all the conventions and stuff shut down during COVID.
Yeah.
So they just had a kind of virtual Q&A session about this a couple weeks ago towards the end of September, where they released some of their plans for this kind of 10-year vision. One of the things they just did recently was they actually hired a COO, the first time ever. They're saying to help with their increased staffing and to make it so that they're not just playing whack-a-mole with the issues and things that they have going on in the organization. So I think that's a good step for them to moving towards like an increased legitimacy, I think is how I would say it.
I haven't ever seen GAMA being like big, right? Like every time that I've heard anything about GAMA, like it's like, oh, here's what they do. But the actual impact on the industry, like it doesn't feel like it's ever been huge to me.
So I think that's where they're trying to move in that direction. So recently they joined two lawsuits actually against President Trump, saying that they felt it was not lawful for him to be able to set the tariff regulations by himself without congressional approval. So that is two lawsuits that are ongoing that they joined in part of. But part of this 10-year plan was to continue to grow their influence on the industry and on the hobby. So particularly some of the priorities that they put out for the next 2 years. So they're looking at introducing an anti-counterfeit initiative, which has been a problem in the board game industry. So they're looking at trying to combat that. They're looking at education and certification programs, providing professional resources, and of course, continuing to be an industry voice to reach out to media on topics that are important to the business. They also wanted to do more things that help to promote tabletop gaming as a career. Right. So we've talked about on the show before that there's not a lot of money in the way the industry is set up now. It's just the name of the game and the nature of it. But they're looking to offer career development and education to hopefully make this a viable career down the road for people who want to get into the industry. And then they also want to expand their industry awards program. So to, again, influence that idea of tabletop gaming being an actual career choice that you can make.
And I think a lot of people would go down that road if they could still do that and feed their family. Because, like we've said, it's just, especially for indie creators, there's not a lot of money until you do something where you hit it really big. One of the big companies picks up your game and you actually start making money from this. But we know people that they're on their fifth game and break even is the goal most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if I'd like to see more of the details when they come out to see just how much the certifications are going to mean in terms of translating to direct income and who they are going to be working with. Are they setting up programs for DeVere can now hire this type of developer that is GAMA certified in, I don't know, mini games? I don't know how they're going to do this.
Yeah, like I wonder if that's the direction we're going, because when you think about this industry versus like construction industry, which is what my actual career is involved in, right? You go to a trade show in the construction industry, it feels different.
Yeah.
There's a lot more like leaning to like certifications, which leads to a lot more backing, a lot more money. Like I wonder if that's the sort of direction that they're envisioning moving forward, because the tabletop industry feels more or less kind of like the wild, wild
I
west
was
right
just
now.
thinking that. Like every convention we've gone to, there's a couple of big booths that everybody wants to go see, but there is so much out there that are just smaller booths, indie creators, people that are creating like board game adjacent kind of product, but there's nothing to standardize that.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm not sure quite that there is a way to do that, but I think potentially having some sort of certification system would help candidates to add something to their resume outside of, oh, I developed this game one time. And
Right.
if whoever you're trying to pitch that to has never heard of that game, which is likely.
Yeah. With as many as there are out there, even people that we have talked to when we were tooling around with Sam at PAX last year, we talked to people that have been in this industry for decades.
Yeah.
And there's like, like my field's the same way, the IT side, like you have certifications that you've gotten and you've maintained. I think this is a good move. The board game industry has definitely come alive and has made some huge strides over the last few years. Like we talk about being in this board game renaissance right now, which is great. I think this is another step to make it more professional. Like you said, a lot of people that are designing games also have other jobs, just like people that are doing podcasts. Sponsorship would be great, Gamma. I'm just saying. Are we still members?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll have to rebrand to the voice of Gamma and see how that works.
My goal is to have a following big enough that people care and give us cease and desist orders. So now they have rebranded as GAMA, the Tabletop Game Association. Like that's just added on. No fancy acronym there. But I think that does speak to their efforts to try to be more inclusive.
Yeah.
We'll see.
They mentioned in the article that we read, they mentioned specifically their efforts to expand the industry and their kind of influence over it outside of the U.S. They are a U.S. company, but they have members in, I think you said 36 other countries.
Yeah. Yep.
So they're really trying to increase that presence to be more worldwide, which I think is great. I think it shows a great opportunity for the board game industry outside of the States. And yeah, so I think it's a great move overall. It's a great plan. Anytime a company comes forward and goes, hey, we want to put out a 10-year plan for where we want to be, I think that's pretty good oversight. So we'll see if they're able to actually not only commit to a plan, but also to execute.
Maybe we can get a job. I know how to sell stuff, and people like me. So that's what we're putting on the resume. I
The
can
short resume.
right. I can also take off in an F-16 after watching TikTok. So I don't know if that's going to help us or not, but there we go. Hey, and from people making big 10-year plans to people fighting for the last 2 years, Kickstarter has a union. About 60% of the company is involved in Kickstarter United, which is part of OPEIU, which I believe is the Office and Professional Employees International Union. They unionized back, I think it was in 2020. And since 2022, these people have had a 4-day work week.
Yeah.
Like we've talked about it in a lot of other circles, mostly the ones that affect us and how many times I have to show up at the office. But a 4-day work week is something that has been tested and played with for a while in a lot of places.
Yeah.
It's a 32-hour work week. And as when it comes to actual output, it seems to actually work better over at Kickstarter. Or their original agreement ended in April of this year. And since then, they have been working to negotiate what would come next. And as I think, as always, I don't think that there's a whole lot of union negotiations that ever go well the first time.
Probably.
So, yeah. So Kickstarter has rejected a lot of what they're asking for. Some of the things they're asking. So the 4-day work week has been something that's been going on since 2022. And Kickstarter management is telling them that they want to reserve the right to change the schedule back whenever they want to. Which some of the spokesperson for the union there brought it up as like, you want the same productivity that we're giving you now, which is the same productivity we were giving you before, and then you want to increase it by 25%. So that's part of it. And Kickstarter does sell themselves to employees and potential employees as that, kind of people over profit type deal. They're also negotiating for a minimum
Salary of
Yeah.
$85K.
85,000, which Kickstarter is home based in New York City, and the lower poverty end of New York City is like 87,000.
Yeah.
Because it's expensive and it's a big city, and they are rejecting that as well. I don't I feel like you can't do the whole people over profit when you're like, people aren't making enough money to survive in the city that you're hiring them in. As of the Thursday, the 2nd of October, they did plan a strike. So that is in full swing right now. One of the things, though, that they were definitely pushing is, hey, we're not asking for a boycott.
Yeah.
Kickstarter is going to have to operate with a reduced staff. And I think the point is to show them how valuable they are to the overall business that is Kickstarter.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was very important that they put out that they are not asking people to not back any projects that are right now or not support the creators during this time, because that's all separate from the points they're trying to make.
Yeah. Which I think is important because, as we know, especially in this industry, Kickstarter is huge for people getting their games out, especially the indie creator types, small businesses. This is where they go to get the money to build a game and to produce it, get the good artwork that's not AI. Kickstarter and, of course, GameFound now is definitely taking up some of that market space.
Yeah.
I do think Kickstarter has implemented some things, I think probably because of GameFound, the pay in installments type thing. They brought in a new type of pledge manager. We know with GameFound, we have really liked that flex pay.
Yeah.
Because then we can get out of control.
That's when we go for the all-in bundles.
They hurt, but they're so fun. It's worth it. Just saying, it's worth it. Another example of, in this industry, a group of people coming together and unionizing and just protecting what they do. What'll be the overall effect? Yeah, if they're able to produce just as good a results in 4 days as they were in 5 days, their lives are better. There's a lot of people that talked to different news outlets and stuff saying that I took a pay cut to come to Kickstarter, but I did it because of the environment.
Yeah.
So I think Kickstarter has something that they need to protect, but then we get into the corporations are just greedy. It just happens every time. And that's where I think the value of unions and now So for some of these big companies in our little circle of geekdom, again, don't make yourself the BBEG. Just don't do it. Hasbro, looking at you with your Pinkerton ass. Yeah, if you are interested, go ahead and look these guys up. They also do have a fundraiser going on GoFundMe. If you go in and search support Kickstarter union workers, right now they've raised $30,000. $35,000 is their goal. This is to help some of the people that are on strike, making up for the wages that they won't be getting. These guys are they're product designers, they're customer support, marketing, outreach, research, trust and safety, and software development. So that's who you're reaching out for. And the big things, again, minimum salary for all workers and keeping their 4-day work day in place, have an actual life. So I support this. Check them out. If you want to throw a couple bucks at them, I'm sure that they would absolutely appreciate it. Community is what drives this hobby.
Next up, we got a couple of cons that are coming up later on this year. First things first, we got one happening this coming weekend as a time of recording. I think by the time this episode goes out, though, it'll have just happened. But it's one of our local cons that started up last year, I believe.
Yep.
And that is Bird Quest, happening here in Williamsburg, Virginia.
Which Williamsburg's already in the Hampton Roads area. It is a vacation-y type place. That's where the old Revolutionary settlement is set up there.
Colonial Williamsburg, yep. But you can also go to like Busch Gardens as well, the theme park that's up there. It's not too far a drive to Jamestown and Yorktown as well. So that whole area is constantly tourist environment, especially for those interested in that kind of Revolutionary War time period. But yeah, so this though is a board game and RPG convention that is actually sponsored by the city of Williamsburg.
Williamsburg realized that there's money. The geeks grew up and are starting to make real adult money now, so we should get in on that. They started it last year and we weren't able to make it, and we're going to try this year, but we probably won't. But it's just what it says. It is board games, it's TTRPGs. It is now this year they've got panels, they've got live music. Pushing Dragons is going to be there to perform again. There's the Fantasy Tavern. Like, there is all the geek stuff that you find in the rest of this hobby, but it is here local to the Hampton Roads area. And a lot of the people that we know, like the Rogue GM is going to be there. I believe that the Weather Dragon is probably putting some tables out. There is a trade show nearby. There's several panels, especially it looks like a lot of them are, hey, how do you make your own homebrew world? And then how do you make some terrain for your homebrew world? Lots of stuff that we talk about just within the community. And it looks like a good weekend. And again, Williamsburg, it's not that far from us. It's not a bad place to hang out this time of the year. Weather's pretty nice. Not that anybody at the con is going to be outside. Something to definitely go check out. Like I said, this is their second year, and it seems to have caught on. Badges, a full weekend badge for an adult is $40, $30 for a single day. Kids, I think, are like $20, but you don't need no kids. But that's up to you. That's up to you. You be the parent that you want to be. Definitely check out their website. See if this is something. Like I said, by the time we put this out, we'll probably be giving you an update on how it went, because that's the way we do our recording, folks. But really excited. Like this video game, there's a lot of walk-in one-shots that you can get into. So if this is you and you're a nerd, get your best cosplay and go to Williamsburg. And then I guess next coming up, end of the month, Essen, which the largest board game show in the world?
Yes.
Convention?
Yes.
So the largest board game convention in the world happens in Essen in Germany. We know a lot of people that end up going here, especially some of the creators we've talked to from overseas. And then all the big creators from the U.S. get to go there. I know that a lot of smaller creators we've talked to, like this is the, one of these days, I'm going to get to Essen.
Yeah, it's the eventual goal.
Right?
Yeah.
The awards that come out from this are always huge for the games that they choose. Even being selected to compete in those awards, your sales are going to jump.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So with Essen, as with Gen Con, there are a lot of new releases that come out, especially from manufacturers and producers that are on that side of the pond. So if you follow on the BGG website, there's always a list that pops up of new releases and things that are going to be available at Essen. And I'm sure you will see with your favorite board game YouTube channels will begin to start putting out content about new releases coming to Essen. So this is always an exciting time. This kind of is the mid stretch, I would say, for the con season.
Yeah.
Because we leaned into this, and then we got PAX Unplugged here in the States to wrap things up for the year. So I'm always excited to see what new games come out. The unfortunate thing is with the current situation with tariffs and stuff like that, we'll probably see a little bit of a delay for releases at Essen making their way over here. But nonetheless, it's a good time to be able to see some of the new stuff that's coming out from publishers and things that we'll be excited about, potentially being able to get our hands on at PAX.
Yes. And it'd be nice to have some new games there this year to look at because I have not irresponsibly spent money in a couple months. PAX coming up too is going to be in November. For anybody that is interested, we always advocate for this on the East Coast to be, if you are interested in going to a bigger con, this is a great start.
Yep.
PAX always feels really good to us. It's not Gen Con, it's not Origins. It is definitely its own feel. It always feels like it is more dedicated to the players and the people that show up. Less about being a trade show and more about kind of a celebration of what we do. It's in Philly. If go look around, you find a place to stay. I like Philly. People in Philly tell me I'm crazy, but I always had a good time when we were up there. So go check that one out. It's coming out. It's going to be the weekend of November 22nd. So like before Thanksgiving, where it's usually like the first week or two in December.
Yep.
A little bit of a change. We're not exactly sure what went on, but you know what? Fine. I'll just plan early.
The only thing to keep in mind is, unfortunately, it is the same weekend as the Philly Marathon. So if it's something that you're looking to do, sooner rather than later would be the time to jump on that.
Oh, yeah. Especially when it comes to housing. These bigger cons, there's always an issue finding somewhere to stay. But we've Airbnb'd it most years, and it's worked out okay. So, yeah, get your group together, make some people sleep on the floor, and good luck finding a spot.
It's a shame. Oh no, that we're playing this play.
So are you one of those oddities in this community that has a lot of actual friends? So one of the things that we run into a lot when it comes to board games is the player account. If you want to throw a board game night, you start having to get selective. And when you are popular and charismatic, you have to pick and choose who you're going to let come over to the board game night.
Yeah, I think one of the things that can make or break a good board game night is not being able to facilitate player count.
Yes.
So you had more people come, or everyone you invited happened to be able to come, and now you're sitting there with too many players, and you could split up and play multiple games, or you could try and play that game that pushes a higher player count. It's going to take 3 hours to get through a game that should only take 45 minutes.
One of our favorite games that we consistently enjoy is Dice Throne.
Yeah.
But you start getting into a higher player count with that, as there are different modes to play it.
Yeah.
And it can drag so hard. So yeah, great example. So we reached into the old hat of tricks here and pulled out some games that we like that are great suggestions with a higher player count. So when you have that big group, you've got something to break out for them. I'm going to start off with one of my favorite large player count game. When I travel with a group, it is not uncommon for me to pack an extra suitcase of games. And one of them that I bring along just about every time is Heroes of Arcadia from Roll a Crit.
Yeah, Heroes of Arcadia is a fantastic mashup of a drinking game and a board game. Some would say it's like a dungeon crawl with drinking, so I guess you could call it a pub crawl. But yeah.
But you never have to leave the table. You know what that means? Less tripping.
Yeah. It's a great game in which you have a glass that represents your character, and there are markings on the glass that will, once you fill it with liquid, that represents your life. And you move around on these coaster-style tiles where you're trying to fight the monsters, and you're looking for the Drink Guardian monster, which is the kind of ultimate monster that's hidden somewhere in this dungeon, to defeat and gain the treasure.
As you play through it, you get power-ups that you can keep. They give you special abilities as you're moving around. Each of the characters, which now there are 17, 18 characters that you can choose from. Each of the characters has their own kind of special ability that they get, and it's nothing that's really game-breaking. There's definitely no meta to this game, but you collect these power-ups. You also collect one-time use cards. A lot of them add this either gotcha mechanic to it, or they will help you, especially when it comes to movement in the board. When you start the game, everybody gets a stack of the tiles to place, and the dungeon's going to look different every time you play it. And that's a little bit of I think the beauty of this. You never know where you're going, and you never know what you're going to run into. The monsters that you fight are varied. Everybody's got a D20. There's a lot of monsters that you fight, which you actually get to choose someone else in the group to roll for that monster, or you may be doing it cooperatively. It's like they tried to take the best parts of all the games and put them together, and then they were like, let's drink while we're doing this.
Yeah. This one is really fun. One of the coolest features of it is being a drinking game. The company that made it thought ahead, and all of the pieces and materials of the game are all waterproof.
From the tiles to the cards to everything you have. They've also just released the Heroes for Hire expansion, which again introduced 4 new characters along with a character that was sponsored by Voodoo Brewing, and he is the Voodoo Ranger. And also there's a new orc character that was introduced as well as a add-on. Bring that count up to, I think it is 18 now. You can play, I think we played 11, which may be higher than the actual play count, but nobody cared. So it was fine. That worked out. Again, if you are not a fan of alcohol, you can put whatever you want into the glass. There is no rule that says you have to drink, especially if you're playing this with kids. I would suggest not doing that. But a really fun game, like I said, easy to have a large player count on. It's really easy to learn. The Heroes for Hire expansion also added the chaos dice, where every time somebody plays a card, the dice moves down its ticker until you roll. And there's 20 different results that can come from that. It could affect the whole board. It could cause people to swap their hand that they have of cards. A lot of different things that can happen. So it just throws a little bit more chaos into it, but it plays really well.
Yeah. So the next one that we want to talk about on the list is another kind of fun, lighter game like that, but that is Cash and Guns.
So I had not seen this game. I think the first time I saw it was on Parlor Room, which is on Dropout TV. Go Google that. If you're a nerd, Dropout TV has something for you, and for $7 a month, you just can't beat it. Sam Reich, the CEO and sometimes game master on certain game shows that they have on there, is a genius and a fantastic human being. But I watched Cash and Guns, and my first thought was, I need to play this game. It took me a little while to find it, but I did get it. Man, I was able to play it with a pretty good-sized group. It's fantastic. You play as a group of mobsters who have just made a score, so now you're divvying up the loot. But again, mobsters, and we all have guns. So the order of play, everybody points their gun at somebody. That person will have the chance to either dive under the table or just stand there and hope that you're not going to shoot them. Everybody has cards. You have either the click card, which means there was no round in the chamber, or you have the bang card, which is actually a shot. If you get shot 3 times, you're out. If you get shot or you dive under the table, you don't get to pick from the loot pile that time around. The Godfather token can be taken at any time, which gives you some advantages in the next round. A really fun game, easy to pick up on. I had a blast with it. You may have some trust issues when you're done with people, but really, if it's a good game, that's really how it should work anyway.
Yeah. This one plays up to 6 is the player count on it, but definitely one of those higher player games that is always just a fun, good time.
So for those of you gamers out there that also are good at reading people, social deduction games, there are a lot of these that have a really high player count. I feel like social deduction games are one of those that is it's a lightning rod, right? Like people either love them or hate them. There's usually not a lot of middle ground. Skip the next 4 minutes, 5 minutes if you don't, or you might learn something about yourself. So a couple of the fun social deduction games that we've pulled out, we're going to start with probably one of the biggest, Blood on the Clock Tower.
If by biggest you mean largest, you're trying to play it, yes. I think it's a little bit newer to the world as opposed to like your werewolves and your vampires and stuff like that. But it definitely has taken the kind of social deduction scene by storm, because it does social deduction in a unique way. and includes a lot of elements of storytelling that you don't often get with some of the more traditional social deduction games.
And like a lot of them, you're talking, it's a murder mystery game. There's a lot of deception. There's a lot of you trying to figure out who is who. It plays up to 25 people. So you're probably going to have to get your game store to get enough people to fill this out.
I think minimum player count's 5 though.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it's not terrible. I think it's 5 plus the person running it. So yeah, but there's a huge opportunity just to play with a whole group of people.
Yeah.
Which we've seen because where this game is very popular now is at conventions. In particular, most recently Gen Con, there were games of this, multiple games of this running on the hour, every hour, all the way up through like midnight and into the early hours of the morning. So if this is something that you're interested in, as we talk about conventions and things, that may be one of the best places for you to go and try this game out.
This game actually does have to have a storyteller in place, where some of the others do not. But a lot of the good social deduction games that I've seen, there is a person running it. So again, you get that storytelling aspect of it. So if you're a TTRPG person as well, this may be something that you could really get into. I know that I've seen locally here, some of our local game stores have started running Blood on the Clock Tower night. So if you have a local game store, always go support them. Buy you some snacks and stuff while you're there, because we know we love snacks. And I definitely check this one out, especially if you like being around lots of people. The next one up. So this one is a newer version of Ultimate Werewolf.
Yeah. So this is the One Night Ultimate Werewolf, which the One Night series, there have been versions of it for almost all of the kind of traditional social deduction games. It is just a shorter version. It cuts down on some of the admin stuff that needed to be done in the longer versions, which ended up making them a quicker game. This is a lot of times, I think, probably what most people are introduced to with social deduction is some form of this. But One Night Ultimate Werewolf is the one we're talking about specifically. It's your standardized version of it. You can find it probably any game store has a copy of it. But it is your standard kind of who's the werewolf, people are dying, you're trying to figure that out, social deduction.
And this is another one where everybody gets a hidden role, and you do get some special abilities depending on your role to help suss out who's out here killing folk. These ones usually, this is a pretty small box too for what it plays, and easy to find. I think it's been around for a long time. It almost for me becomes a staple in every game store that I've wandered into. They have either this or one of the other like One Night series that has been brought out.
Yeah, there's another game that's in the same vein. It's called Resistance, or also Avalon is like the medieval version of it. But it's another like social deduction type. But in that one, it's more kind of team based, and you try and you're going out on missions and you're trying to sabotage the missions without them knowing who sabotaged the missions, kind of thing. That one's really cool as well. So a lot of these kind of lighter social deduction games are out there. So if that's something that you like this style of game and are maybe looking for kind of an entry level, one of these are a great option for you.
And that one's going to run you for 3 to 10 players. So definitely lots. And that's from Bezier Games, which they always have a nice truck out in the parking lot at all the conventions.
It's got that image on the side.
Yeah, I was
right?
going to say, it's the One Night Werewolf image.
Yeah.
And we're talking social deduction games. Definitely have to talk about Cult of the Deep. I think that Cult of the Deep is definitely one of those hidden gems when it comes to board games.
Sure. We've talked about this game a lot. If this is your first episode, congratulations. Welcome to the crew. You should probably go back and listen to some of the other times we talked about Cult of the Deep. As we talked about before, though, this game combines multiple elements of gaming that makes it so good. There are a lot of elements of social deduction, but there are also a lot of elements like dice rolling and dice placement, dice manipulation. So all of that kind of brings this a little bit different feel from your traditional social deduction.
And I know people that are anti-social deduction that we've talked about that do enjoy playing this game, where it is a hidden role, unique power type game. Everybody gets a role that they are. They also get a character card, which gives them their unique abilities. You're in a cult, and some people have decided that the high priest needs to go, and there's a few others that are trying to protect him, depending on the player count. So you play the game by either you can hurt people, you can heal people, you can advance rituals which sit in the middle of the table, and those can be anything from summoning eldritch horror to there's one that is a arcane explosion that goes off and does damage to everybody around you or the character that finishes on. Lots of really interesting gameplay that happens. The biggest thing that I have with this game that makes it difficult is I feel like you have to have somebody that really knows the game for first time players.
Yeah, no, I think that is accurate.
Yeah.
But I do think that's almost the case needed in a lot of these. You
Mhm.
want to use a little more experience who can guide the game a little bit, especially in the social deduction realm. But yeah, these are our choices for kind of a social deduction for a larger group. But staying with BA games, let's talk about some lighter party games. So they just came out with one. It just finished up Kickstarter a couple months ago. Their newest game is called Goats and Goblins.
Right. I believe that Kickstarter is supposed to deliver in November. I believe it's before Christmas. I believe they're supposed to come out with that. So you can probably find the retail version of this hitting beginning of next year. We were actually demoing this a lot at Gen Con and Origins as well. And everybody that we showed it to had a good time with it. This is another one that we've talked about a little bit just in kind of the Gen Con wrap up. It is a game where you play as these goblin shepherds, and your sheep have wandered off into this cave, into this mine, and you have to go find them. It is nothing but a deck of cards, and everybody takes their turn at being the leader of the expedition. And you tell everyone how deep you're going to go into the mine to try to find the goats and to find treasure that just happens to be wedged into the wall or whatever. Don't worry about the story. This is more about the game. And you'll say something like, okay, we're going to go 5. So you're going to flip over 5 cards. You'll do them one at a time. But before you start, everyone else gets to decide whether they're in or out, right? What you're trying to avoid is the cave-in cards. If you get 3 cave-ins and they come in values of 1, 2, or 3, that ends your expedition. If you get to the number that you've specified without 3 cave-ins, then everybody that was in gets some of the treasure you find. And if you don't, everyone that is out gets the treasure. So it's really one of those like, how well do you trust this person? Like you're playing the odds. It's a lot of fun. I think the record that we've seen for card draws, what did we get to last time? It was up there. I think it was like 21.
I think it was 23. I think is the last one that I heard.
It changed a couple times.
Yeah.
My favorite was like this, what was she, like 8-year-old kid?
Yeah.
Oh, she got it to 18. There's also cards you can play, like the push card. So you push them deeper into the mine. This girl went for 18 and got it like a straight draw. She didn't use any of the cheat cards where you like can destroy some of the cave-ins or anything. Nope. And everybody at the table was like, yeah, we're going to let that go. Respect.
Yeah.
So good on you guys.
Every time that I ran this game, it was a good time.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
it was the loud table every time.
yeah. And it didn't matter who was at the table either, because I had groups that were like mostly they knew each other. I had groups that like nobody knew anybody, but once they sat down and understood the game, then it was, oh yeah. So we were running 30-minute demos of this, and oftentimes my groups would get through 2 games.
Yeah.
Just because as soon as they get done, they take the deck, but shuffle it back up and then run right in again. This game is just a blast. I can't wait for it to be where our listeners here can get their hands on it. If you didn't back the Kickstarter, for sure, it's just a really good time.
Goats and Goblins plays 2 to 6 players. So again, I think when we talk higher player count, 6 is the minimum is what we're bringing out, because that's usually where it starts getting weird.
Yeah.
So it plays up to 6, but if you talk to the actual designers, they will tell you that you could probably play 8 or maybe even a little bit more. And the deck is big enough that it can definitely handle that. At the end of the game, you just count up your treasure, and whoever's the richest goblin wins. Goblin Society, not real complicated. Not at all.
The next kind of lighter, more party game that we want to talk about is Codenames. So Codenames is a powerhouse of a party game that has been around now. I think it came out right around 2020, if I remember right.
It's been out long enough that there's about 15 different versions of it now.
Codenames came out actually in 2015, and it had a massive following one of the games I think that kind of really helped CGE get on the map,
Definitely.
but there have been many versions of it now. There's Codenames Pictures, there's Codenames Duet, but the original one, which will play 2 to 8 players, is the one that we want to talk about today.
Yep.
So in Codenames, you separate into 2 different teams. There is a board that has your agents on it. Some are blue and some are red, but they're all flipped over so they all look the same in the beginning. There are 2 players, one from each team, gets to see a key card, and that key card will tell them how to set up the board so they set up their agents based on that key card. And then what they do is they try to give clues that will tell you where the agents are on the board. So the 2 people will give clues to their team to try and help them to find their agents before it's too late. The first team that uncovers all of their agents is the team that is the winner. Very simple, very straightforward, but it is a fantastic game. It reminds me of like charades in like the way that it requires that kind of teamwork and that sort of interpretation.
Right.
But instead of doing like crazy moves and things like that, you're just giving wordplay and all those sorts of things. The goal as the clue giver is you're trying to be able to line up multiple agents with one clue. Right. So that a person like your team can really pick out multiple. But if you're too vague, they might pick the wrong agents. And yeah, it's a fantastic game. Definitely recommend it if you've never played it before. They actually just redid the artwork for it.
I was going to say, I see the new one out now, and it looks good.
Yeah. So they just put that out this year. So you can actually find this. I know I saw it in Target the other night. So like pretty much all your big box stores that have games, you can find it. I'm sure you can also find the new updated version at your local game store as well. So it's another one of those kind of nice and easy 6+ party games.
Still somewhat social deduction, I think. It's a whole lot less social, and it's a whole lot more interpretation.
Mysterium.
I really like Mysterium, especially with as versatile as it's gotten now, with the option of using different cards, which one person plays as they're the clue giver, they're the ghost. You're trying to figure out the clue trifecta: who did it, where they did it, what did they use, kind of thing. But to explain it, you have these tarot-sized cards that you put out, and they're very cryptic. You have to interpret what you think it means and then hope that other people think like you. It's harder for some people than others, but it is so much fun, especially when you get to the point where everybody's explaining what they thought it was, and you're going to make weird faces at people because it'll be some like, what the hell moments?
Yeah.
But I think that really adds to the fun of the game.
Yeah. So it is a cooperative game.
Yes. Yeah.
So in this game, each of the players gets a specific person, a specific item, and a specific place that the murder happened for them. And then at the end of the game, the goal is as the clue giver is to get everybody to figure out their person, place, and item. And then at the end of the game, one of those is randomly selected as the actual murderer. And the quicker that you can get the investigators, or the mediums
Right.
through the different levels, gives them more time and more opportunities to guess the correct person, place, and thing. So it's really cool because as the ghost, you can't speak to give any kind of like clues or anything by what you mean. You can only use these cards that are extremely abstract.
Yes. Yeah.
So one of the cool things that we have figured out is that when you play Mysterium enough, you start to figure out, oh, this deck of cards, all right, this card always means this thing.
Yeah.
So to keep it interesting, we've actually mixed in cards from another game called Dixit. So Dixit is a game that also uses that kind of abstract artwork and the tarot-sized cards, so it fits perfectly, but it gives you more options to be able to play with the game a little bit where it doesn't become stale and you're able to mess with it and game it, basically. But it's a fantastic, fun little game, especially as we're approaching Halloween.
Yes.
It's got that mystery spookiness to it. Would definitely be a fun one to gather people around to play. If you're throwing like a Halloween board game party or something like that, it's really a classic.
It is. Plays up to 7 players. So again, that nice higher player count. Another one I want to throw in, just because I know it's a favorite of yours, Spirit Island, with the Jagged Earth expansion, now plays up to 6 players as well. That is another, as we were talking, Mysterium being a cooperative game. This is another cooperative game where you play as the island spirits and you're trying to get rid of the colonizers. I know that one's a favorite of yours and some other people, but with this new expansion, you can get more of your friends to get rid of the colonizers.
Yeah, I will say though that Spirit Island is a gamer's game. So be careful of who you're trying to play this with because it can get a little bit crunchy and thinky. But if your group enjoys that sort of thing, then 100% sign them up because it's a very good cooperative game and not allowing quarterbacking because you have so much going on with your own spirit and your own board trying to repel the colonizers that oftentimes you can't put the brain power into trying to figure out what somebody else is
To tell
doing.
somebody else what to do.
It's a lot of you have to trust the people you're playing with, and there's communication as far as, okay, I can help you out in this place, but I have this area that's going to blow up, so I need help over here. So there's a lot of that, and I only imagine at higher player counts that continues to like become even more important. So yeah, no, that's definitely a good call out for a great cooperative game.
Yeah, if you have friends, go ahead and invite them over. Go find one of these games, your social circle. Figure out if they're more murdery, if they're more post-murdery. Find the people that are going to be fun to play with and invite them all over for a Halloween party.
I just. Yeah. I just. I just.
Hey, now it's time for a new segment we're calling It All Starts with a Story. So our show has never really been hyper focused on anything. We talk board games, card games, TTRPGs, some wargaming. It's just all of the community that we wander into.
It's the ADHD.
It really is. It is, which I feel like most of our listeners are going to understand. So we wanted to put a segment together where we're going to start talking strictly your TTRPGs. We all know the big one, and we all know who owns the big one, and we all know that sometimes they can suck the big one. So we definitely wanted to look at different TTRPGs that are out there. We're going to talk about the mechanics of the game. We're going to talk about some of the ways to start a game, ideas for players, ideas for building your own campaign. This is just going to be all about the story. We thought it was appropriate to start out with one of the newer games that's out there with some incredible minds working behind it. And we're talking Daggerheart.
So if you have not heard about Daggerheart, first off, we need to get you out from underneath the rock you're living in.
Go touch grass.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good stuff out there. Daggerheart has been talked about now for at least the past year. It released officially in May this year to an immediate sellout within 3 days on its release date. They did get some more copies and had some. We actually were able to pick up a copy at Gen Con.
Yeah.
As well as a bunch of other people were able to get their copies there. But it's the new system coming out from Darrington Press, which is the beloved press side of our fans and friends at Critical Role.
These guys have done a lot. They have proven that there is the opportunity to make money here. The fandom is, I wouldn't say rabid, but if you had to put a West Side Story fight together, I think Critical Role fans and Taylor Swift fans, that's
Sure.
going to be the best show.
Sure. Yeah. I'll accept that. So this has come out now, and aside from being from the Critical Role team, there are some other people who have joined on to this that I believe we mentioned it a couple shows ago when we were talking about this, but we now have the minds of Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins.
Which is what, almost, God, it's got to be what, 60 years worth of experience?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But also, not to be put out, your motherfucking best friend, Keith Baker, is also working on content for the Daggerheart system. So
Keith's a visionary. I'll see you at Wild Bill's, buddy.
There are a lot of really awesome resources going into this new game.
And from what we've seen, which we have, the It's just the base
We have
copy
the-
right now.
That's all that's out right now is just the core rule book. That's it.
And just from that, I think I've already I love this system for what 5e has become for us. I
Yeah.
feel like this takes all the things that we like about that and gets rid of a lot of the things that I could do without.
So before we jump into what we love about it, let's talk about where you can find more information.
Yes.
So first and foremost, if you are curious about this, you can go to the Daggerheart website. There are great information on there. There's also playtest material on there for new classes and things like that, which are really cool. So definitely go take a look at that. You can look and you can actually, I think, get a copy of the game now. I believe it's back in stock. So you'll be able to order that if it's something that you're interested in. The other thing is there are a few live plays out there right now. So particularly the one from Critical Role, we have Age of Umbra, which season 2 should be coming along pretty soon on that. It was a mini series they did, but really well done, of course, because Critical Role. If you're a fan of Dungeons and Daddies, they have a one shot that should be coming out pretty soon with the Daggerheart system. Legends of Evantris is another one that's going to be doing a mini campaign for it.
And they are, though, that's one of them that I've been listening to. They are so good.
Or if you Google Daggerheart live play, there will be a link to a Reddit page that someone has gone through and put a ton of work into finding almost all the live plays for Daggerheart. And it's constantly updated because they ping the creators of those shows to come and update when they release new episodes. If you are interested in finding live plays of Daggerheart of what it sounds like and what it looks like, they are out there now. So feel free to go do that. There are a lot of online resources if you're looking to play Daggerheart as well that you can find and play even from the comfort of your own home.
Right.
So that is where we are for the state of the game. But let's talk about what we love.
So for me, and I think for us, I actually began playing D&D in 2nd edition. And 2nd edition, I think what it does well is it does dungeon crawling well. As soon as you figure out Thaco, you're good. I think what it does not do as well is the social storytelling side of what it's become, right? Anybody that's watched Critical Role, Dimension 20, all of the big shows, Dungeon Daddies, Legends of Evantris, there's a lot of story to it, and there was, and you can find the modules and stuff like that. But when it came to the mechanics, were really combat driven, right? Nobody ever designed a character to be able to talk good. No, I'll do all my talking with my axe.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's good. That's where we're going. But that's just what it was, and the people that designed it were like old white dudes in a basement. So I get it. That was their weekly, let's go smash some stuff, stress relief. It's turned into more of a good storytelling was what people look for. And I think that's what this does well.
Yeah. So as we progress through the years, and especially with 5e, we have seen that kind of shift from the crunchy mechanics that are all about combat to really wanting to tell more stories.
Yep.
And that's more mainstream. There have always been versions of RPGs out there that do that. Not to say that this is brand new, no one's ever done this before, but this idea that on a mainstream shift towards storytelling, I think is something that is fairly new.
Yeah.
I think that probably comes from the hobby growing in not only size, but also in diversity.
Yes.
There are a lot of new people that come from very diverse backgrounds wanting to engage in the hobby. Like you said, it's not just white dudes in a basement anymore, which brings to the table stories and stuff that they have of their own to tell.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we love about RPGs and what we want to see. And that's really something that Daggerheart does well, because this game is really built on the idea of this narrative driven storytelling. From everything from the character and world creation aspect all the way through the way combat functions, it is all about the story. And to some people, that is a little bit off-putting or maybe nerve-wracking if they feel like they don't have that ability to tell those kind of stories.
Yeah.
And I hear those complaints and those fears, but I think what Daggerheart does really well is gives you the tools to be able to do that. So the big thing with this one is really there's less map.
Which That's what I love. We're working our way down. Like we got to 3.5, still lots of math. 4, I don't know, that's the dark ages. 5, way less math, and now something like Daggerheart. It's really minimized.
Yeah, so you're things like you're no longer tracking hit points because the way the hit points work in this, they're thresholds.
Yep.
So if the threshold gets broken, you mark so many levels of hit points. Like your character will have 9 hit points versus 60 something. So you don't have to keep track of it. And the same thing with the monsters and stuff as a GM. You don't have to keep track of those specific hit point levels. Your abilities are the same way. There's no longer 2 different numbers. They're just one.
Yeah.
Just there's a 0, +1, +2, and a -1 kind of thing. And that's how you build your character. You just assign those. There's no numbering to figure out. If I add 1 more here and take 1 away from here, that makes this a +2. And that's no more of that. It's very simple, very streamlined.
Whereas the old one, look, I have an 18 strength. That means I'm a +4. I got a 16. What does that mean? You don't have to do that conversion anymore. I really like when the character creation is just that simple.
Yes. The other thing that's done really is the implementation of armor, the way that you can mark armor slots to reduce damage, thresholds. The stress mechanic is really good. But I think the one thing for me that really stands out about this game, and it was the first thing that caught my eye, is the card system. So if you don't know anything about the game, when you're creating a character in Daggerheart, you have your ancestry, which other games call race, right? So what your character, where they come from. You have their community, which is like their background, right? You have a class, and then you have an ability, right? So all of these things in the core set of Daggerheart are on cards.
Yes. Yes. Which I, like, as somebody that has had to teach people how to make characters,
Yes.
that is an hour to 2 hour process before the game begins. We usually, like, when we're teaching a new group, we will do that as its own session.
Yes. And we sit there and we have to tell them, hey, write this down because you're going to need it later. You don't know what it means, but write this down. Because think about 5e, when you choose a race, that comes with all these different things, special abilities, your dark vision, like all of that stuff that you got to keep track of. When you choose a background, same thing. And all of these features and stuff, you're having this new player who's probably potentially never played an RPG before write down that they don't have any idea what it means, and they're not going to remember when it comes up. I guarantee it. We've seen it happen
lots and lots of times.
Maybe even done it before. But what this does is it takes all that and makes it to where you can have all of that right there in front of the player. And it's very simple. The way that they did ancestries is so clean. Each ancestry has 2 features to it, 2 abilities that you give. And if you want to make a character that is mixed ancestry, you just take a top ability from one and a bottom ability from another, and bam, there you go. You have your mixed ancestry.
Yes.
That is so simple and so clean. It's so easy.
Yes.
To get a player who is not familiar with building an RPG character in. You look at the community cards, right? There are multiple different communities that you can be a part of. You can really tailor your character like to what you want it to be because the communities are not restrictive. They're more or less, what does the place you look like or you grew up in look like? And then, but it's not, because of that, you really got to line yourself this way. Like the freedom to build the character that you want, it's fantastic.
I think looking through the character creation, what we have, I also think that it gets rid of that min-max mentality.
I think that's one thing that this game does well is there's not it doesn't feel like there is it's as easy to min-max.
Whereas we know, like 5th edition, you're going to do this class. Well, the best race for that is this. Also, your background, you take this, whether it makes sense to your character or not.
Yeah.
Where this feels a little bit more free.
It allows the story to be its own thing.
Yes.
Outside of the mechanics. But you get into the class. So classes are really cool. So each class currently just has 2 subclasses, and you choose which one you want to go with. There are the different features for that. But each class has what are called two domains. There are 9 domains in this game, and each class will draw on 2 different domains. For instance, the rogue in particular draws from the Grace domain and the Midnight domain. So once you choose your class, you choose your subclass, right? Then you get the ability to access domain cards. And you can take these cards, which they're kind of like your character abilities.
Right.
Yeah. Thinking about like your spells and stuff like that. You can choose any of the cards from those domains as long as you meet the level requirement. Right? So it's cool because while the rogue is both a Grace domain and a Midnight domain, the sorcerer is a Midnight domain and an Arcana domain. So the sorcerer and the rogue share that Midnight domain. So when you're playing at a table, like if you have players that share a domain with each other, they share that deck of cards that they pull from. So you can, if you want, if you have the cards and have extras, they can choose the same abilities. But if you want to make it a little more restrictive, you can play with one set. So they almost intertwine and rely on each other for that domain, which is a really cool feature because it creates connections between players just through the mechanics.
Yes. Yeah. I feel like that gets rid of some of that's what my character would do as well, just because you are mechanically creating those links.
Yeah. So that's the basis of the card system. And what's really cool is looking online with some of the playtest material they're putting out, they're looking at adding more domains as well. Because obviously the domains right now, it's a pretty tight-knit thing.
Yeah.
Right. There are 9 domains, and then there are all the classes that fall in between those. On some of the new classes, they add a new domain, and then it'll share one of the domains from the existing book. So there's a lot of really cool stuff coming for this as well. I'm excited to see what they do. But the card system is one of the things that really stood out to me on it. Then, of course, we get into the dice.
Yes.
Yeah. So the dice for this game are really cool. I'm glad they used one of the most unused dice from 5e, and that is the D12.
The humble D12 gets used like twice in the entirety of 5th edition.
Yep. So in Daggerheart, the players use 2 D12s. They have to be able to be like different because one is your hope die and one is your fear die. When a character does something that requires a roll, they roll these die, and whichever one is higher determines part of the outcome of the roll.
Yes.
So the way that works is the player will roll and they'll add them together and they'll read out the number, and it'll either be with hope or with fear. And this leads into this hope and fear mechanic, right? So the players have the resource called hope, but the GM has the resource of fear.
Yes.
And every time a roll with hope is made, right, like the characters will gain a hope, and every time a roll with fear is made, the GM will gain a fear. Right? There are certain abilities and things that require you to spend hope to be able to do. There are things like tag team rolls and stuff that require hope, but also it changes the way the roll is. So it's no longer just a positive or negative, like you succeed or you fail, right? Because it's potential you may fail with hope.
Yes.
Or you may succeed with fear. Now, I don't know if you remember the Star Wars game that came out they used the...
I was just thinking that had the actual
the
storytelling dice that you rolled with it. Yes.
Yeah. So it was a similar mechanic where even if you were successful, like there may be that tinge of a dark side.
Yes.
Or on the verse, even if you were unsuccessful, there would be that like tinge of hope from the light side. And it's the same kind of idea, right? You are able to take those, and instead of it being a true like pass fail type thing, it offers a unique storytelling opportunity by doing that.
Fate Core has a really similar mechanic where you and whoever the storyteller is have the ability to change the story, which is what fear and the hope can do for you.
Yeah.
But also like you're succeeding or you're failing, but again, gives you more avenues, and it's actually a mechanic in place that focuses on the story.
Yeah.
Which makes a big change there. Yeah.
So where the fear comes in is it's the opportunity for the GM to impact the story.
Yeah.
So they spend fear to do things like create a story moment or to highlight an enemy that would be attacking or something along those lines, or how the GM would use fear. So it's this constant kind of push and pull back on the story of the players succeeding and having this hope and doing all these things, but the GM being able to spend fear to keep the story kind of in check, more or less. So it's a really cool mechanic. The GM does not use D12s. The GM uses a D20. So it's when you look at the particularly like some of the character or the stat blocks and stuff like that for enemies, you'll see they're weighted a little bit differently because of the use of the 20. But let's talk about crits.
Yes.
So what I love about the crit system in this is that if a player ever rolls their hope and fear die and they are the same number, it counts as a crit. So that means if you roll 2 1s, it's a crit. It's really cool, but it allows, again, like it gives a little more options for critical success, right? But it also allows for these really cool moments, right? Because even if you rolled badly, you might still roll a crit.
Right.
And then, but yeah, we talked a little bit about hit points and stress, right? The hit points are so much easier to keep track of because of the thresholds. You have the stress markers, which the GM can apply stress to a player. And when you run out of stress on your character sheet, every time you would take a stress, you take a hit point instead. So it's just another way for the story to be told, because one of the things that I've always had frustrations with 5e is that as the story goes on, right, you do all these crazy things and all these crazy things happen, and then you take a long rest and you wake up and it's like, I'm good to go.
I'm good.
Yeah. There are some really unique like mechanics with resting in this as well. Like you only have certain options that you can choose while you're resting, that you don't get like the full wipe the slate clean kind of thing like you get in 5e. So that's another thing that kind of offers that storytelling continuation. That those are just the mechanics though.
Right.
That's just the baseline of what I feel this system does really well. But then you move into some of the stuff that's included in the core book, particularly the campaign frame.
Oh, yes. There are several. Just again, we're talking just the core book.
Yeah.
And they are where you do see a lot of 5th edition lean towards the fantasy side. And there's definitely some of that. But there's a lot of other settings that come with this book that are very much not fantasy setting.
Yeah, so this is how Daggerheart does its settings. It calls it campaign frames. And what it does is it basically gives you the sandbox to play in whatever world that you want. So in particular, so we mentioned Age of Umbra earlier, which is the game that Critical Role is running with the Daggerheart system. There is an Age of Umbra campaign frame. And in that campaign frame, it talks about this is the world. These are the things that would change from the base mechanics. These are maybe some differences that you need to be aware of with different ancestries and classes and things like that in this world, right? Age of Umbra is a very much a fantasy setting, right? But then you have ones like the Colossus of the Dryland, which is one that I'm very interested in. In this, it's more of a Western theme, right? And then there are these giant colossi that wake up, right? And
is that the plural of Colossus?
I think so.
Yeah, we're going with it.
That wake up and you have to fight them. And they talk about different mechanics for how you can fight them and how like you as players can climb up them and attack different parts and all that sort of stuff. But there's also like sci-fi settings in here, right? And just it really shows the way that you can take the core rules and build whatever you want out of it. Because with that, the other thing that I think is really cool and really leaves open to interpretation is enemies. So unlike the traditional like D&D, there is no monster manual for this.
Right. Yeah.
Instead, it tells you different classes of enemies, and then it tells you how to make.
Right. And I think on the website, they have the resources for you to do your own work for a lot of that.
Yeah, you can find like the particular templates for the enemies so you can just fill those out and all that sort of stuff. They really have left this open to be able to tell whatever story you want. But yeah, that's some of the things that I love about it, for sure.
One of the things that I've really that drew me to it, fifth edition can be deadly for characters, but it feels like you've almost got to homebrew it to be more dangerous. Either that or you just have to like your monsters you create just have to be pricks, right? Oh, they're unconscious. Let me attack him 2 more times while he's laying on the ground to end it. With the death mechanic that is worked into Daggerheart is the death move. When you mark off your last hit point, you have to make a decision. The blaze of glory, you basically decide, yep, this is the end, and I've got one more shot.
Yeah.
And it's up to DM discretion of what you can get away with doing. But I love this mechanic where you just go out and maybe you wipe all of the trash mobs or something, or maybe you take that one shot at the boss, and it doesn't have to be within the mechanics. It's up to the DM how well you do.
Yeah.
So I love being able to work that in. And then, of course, there's other, what is it, the risk it all? If you want to stay on your feet, you roll your duality dice. If your hope ends up higher, you stay on your feet. You clear the amount of hit points and stress. So there is a kind of a way to fight it off, but just the option to be able to be like, nope, this character's over.
Yeah. I love that Blaze of Glory. But yeah, that risk it all option is such a tension mechanic.
Yeah.
So you take the duality die, so the hope and fear die, and you roll them. Whichever one is higher, that determines the outcome. So it doesn't matter what you roll number wise, but if the fear die is higher, that's it. You're just dead.
Yeah.
Just straight up.
Yeah.
But if the hope die is higher, you not only survive, but you clear hit points and stress equal to the number on that hope die. So it is a 50-50 shot for sure. But if you're successful, you not only get up, but you get up coming back hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in particular, there is a moment of this in Age of Umbra pretty early on where one of the characters has this opportunity, right? And they decide to take the risk it all option, right? And I don't want to spoil what happens because you may go watch it after this, but the tension that it creates, like you can feel it, like even in that room. And it's not like they've played these characters for years. Like this is literally like the first or second session they've been playing with them. But it still creates such that interesting tension and storytelling, right? Because you really leave it all up to the dice to see what happens, right? But the ability to give the character agency
Yes.
over the story, I think is what this does really well. Now, the only thing I would caution against this, and something that I've seen brought up a few times, is this system requires the players to be invested in the story and to contribute to the story.
Yeah. Yes. Which is the point of this in a designing the system the way that they did, where we've all played games, especially we still love you guys, but the min-maxers that play a lot of times are, oh, are we talking again? Let me know when we need to hit something.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And you can't do that in this setting or with this system. I mean, you probably could, but again, it's going to take away, and it's actually going to hurt the mechanics that are going on.
Yeah. I think this system with the right group of people who are invested in telling a story with it, I think 100% has the chance to outshine anything that 5e.
I think so. Yep.
Just with the options and opportunity that it has, there's just a huge opportunity. I saw one video online when I was watching some live plays of this. A guy took Curse of Strahd and actually wanted to run like Castle Ravenloft using Daggerheart.
Yeah.
And with the exception of one combat where things slowed down, it was fantastic. Just the way that the story elements were able to keep running and moving. But yeah, there's a lot more we could say about Daggerheart. But it's definitely something that I recommend you checking out, especially if you're looking for something that's a little bit different, a little more interactive in the story elements and things like that. Maybe even a little more new player friendly. This is a fantastic new game, and I recommend that you go take a look at it if you're looking for a new RPG.
Absolutely. And as this segment moves on, we'll probably dive a little deeper. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the finer rules, and we'll definitely look at other systems. Old Gods of Appalachia, we're looking at you, baby. So if Monty Cook makes it, it's deadly. It'll be fun. So yeah, go ahead and go tell your story.
Steel meets shadow. Fate takes form. Heroes rise through fire and storm.
Dice roll and destiny take flight. Legends are born in the candlelight.
From whispered lore to endless glory. Remember, friends, it all starts with a story.
For the Dapper Meeple, I'm Jim.
And I'm Josh.
Good night, everyone.